3-meter-high snowdrifts in Italy, a suffocating dust storm in Greece, hail the size of a palm in Argentina, extreme flooding in Russia. This episode is a chronicle of the past week's climate events that are reshaping our world. Afghanistan. Devastating floods in most provinces of Afghanistan were caused by heavy rains that began on March 26th. In some areas, more than 100 millimeters of precipitation fell within a short period, which, combined with seasonal snowmelt, worsened the situation, especially in mountainous regions. Around 5,000 homes were destroyed or damaged by the disaster, and the water supply system was rendered inoperable. Agricultural lands covering thousands of hectares were destroyed, and hundreds of livestock animals died. Due to a sudden rise in water levels in Ghazni province, a passenger bus overturned, killing 2 people, injuring more than 10, and leaving 1 child missing. From April 2nd, in several provinces, in addition to persistent rainfall, heavy snowfall was also observed, an extremely unusual phenomenon for this time of year. The snow covered blossoming fruit trees and already sprouted crops. In the southern province of Zabul, known for its hot and dry climate, snow depth in some areas reached an unprecedented 75 centimeters. Due to abnormal snowfall and heavy rains, transportation networks were disrupted, including key highways. More than 350 kilometers of roads were flooded, and the Kabul-Jalalabad highway was closed due to rockfalls and landslides. As a result of the disaster, at least 99 people were killed nationwide, and 154 were injured. Russia. For the second week in a row, residents of the North Caucasus have been facing extreme precipitation. In late March, a vast cyclone triggered floods in the Chechen Republic. 30 bridges were damaged, and more than 3,000 buildings were affected. Over 100 homes were completely destroyed. People were evacuated from flooded villages by trucks, entire families at a time. In the Republic's mountainous areas, water not only inundated homes, but also eroded slopes, shifted soil, and destroyed roads. In the Nozhe-Yurt district, dozens of houses were damaged by landslides. Over the course of 2 days, 75 millimeters of precipitation fell in Grozny, more than twice the monthly average. In 2 municipal districts, crops were destroyed across an area exceeding 860 hectares. Additionally, 130 tons of seed rice were damaged due to the flooding of a warehouse. The same cyclone brought heavy rains and squally winds to Dagestan. Large-scale floods erupted, causing disruptions to water and electricity supplies. At the peak of the storm, more than 500,000 residents of the Republic were left without power. More than 3,000 residents were forced to leave their homes. Rockfalls and mud flows in the mountains disrupted transportation, leaving dozens of settlements cut off from the outside world. A state of emergency was declared in 5 cities and 7 districts of the region. The collapse of 2 railway bridges due to the erosion of their supports led to the suspension of train services along several sections. In flood-affected areas, emergency vaccination of residents against viral hepatitis A began due to the risk of infectious disease outbreaks. In March, Makhachkala recorded a historic precipitation total, the highest in the history of observations, exceeding the norm by more than 4.5 times. Severe flooding also affected the Kasavyurt district. For several consecutive days, movement there was possible only by boat, while residents were evacuated using trucks, tractors, and passenger vehicles. Following the evacuation of residents, a rescue operation began to save livestock, which had remained trapped in flooded courtyards for 2 to 3 days. Serious damage to major fiber optic trunk lines in Dagestan led to communication disruptions in the southern part of the region. As of April 4th, flooding persisted in 1,065 homes and 42 road sections across the Republic. On the night of April 5th, the disaster struck Dagestan again, once more flooding the streets of previously affected settlements with torrents of muddy water. Due to the flooding of the highway between Derbent and Makachkala, rescuers evacuated people using fire engines and other specialized equipment. Nearly a month's worth of precipitation fell in Makachkala within a single day, damaging 3,755 homes. Because of the subsidence of waterlogged soil, an apartment building collapsed, while 4 more were placed in the collapse zone. In Derbent, the volume of rainfall over 2 days exceeded the monthly norm by 5.5 times. Streets and residential courtyards were once again inundated. In the village of Kirki, a landslide destroyed a house, resulting in 1 fatality. A dam breach at the Gedjuk Reservoir occurred in the Derbent district of Dagestan. More than 4,000 people from 4 settlements were evacuated as a precaution. On the federal highway, powerful floodwaters swept away vehicles. 7 people were rescued, while 2, tragically, lost their lives. The devastating floods in Dagestan claimed the lives of 6 people, including 2 children. A torrential downpour struck Volgograd on April 1st, with nearly a month's worth of precipitation falling in just a couple of hours. A genuine transportation collapse ensued. Traffic congestion on the streets reached the maximum level of 10 points. Cars were submerged, and passengers traveled in buses with water-filled interiors. The rain damaged shops, underground parking facilities, and residential buildings. The local administration noted that the storm drainage systems were fully operational, but were unable to handle such an immense volume of rainfall that fell within a short period. In certain parts of the city, hail fell, an occurrence atypical for this time of year. Hailstorms. A powerful storm struck the San Rafael department in Mendoza province, Argentina, on March 31st. In just 15 minutes, large amounts of water and hail caused transport disruptions on access roads. Local residents were alarmed by enormous hailstones. According to eyewitnesses, the ice chunks reached the size of a chicken egg and a human palm. In San Rafael, hail punctured roofs of houses and damaged vehicles, leaving deep dents in bodywork and shattering windows. Hurricane-force winds in rural areas knocked down trees and power lines, leaving entire districts without electricity, while heavy rains flooded roads and paralyzed traffic. The greatest damage was inflicted on the agricultural sector, a key part of the local economy. Hail destroyed crops, orchards, and vineyards. Damage assessment has only just begun, but it is already clear that the losses are enormous. At the end of March, the western part of New York State was hit by a powerful storm system that significantly exceeded normal weather conditions for the region. The main impact of the storm struck the small town of Gowanda. Residents reported that they had never seen anything like it. The sky suddenly darkened and hail fell in such a dense flow that being outdoors was dangerous. Schools in the town implemented shelter-in-place orders. Students and staff were required to remain inside until the storm passed. Within minutes, hail covered the streets with a layer of ice. The hailstones reached 4 centimeters in diameter. Their impacts were accompanied by loud cracking sounds and were powerful enough to crush vehicles, break building windows, and damage exterior siding of homes. Due to heavy rainfall, several counties experienced flooding. In some areas, roads became impassable, and vehicles became stuck in water, including sections under overpasses. A state of emergency was declared in Allegheny County, and movement was restricted. In 24 hours, about 38 millimeters of precipitation fell in Buffalo, setting a record for March 31st, over 140 years of observations.
It's not the bridges.
The storm was accompanied by gusty winds and thunderstorm activity. One EF1 tornado was confirmed, which uprooted trees and damaged isolated structures. Fortunately, there were no fatalities.
We had lots of wind, we never had a roof come off.
In early April, southern regions of China experienced a rare wave of extreme weather. On April 2nd, a thunderstorm supercell formed over Guiyang Prefecture in Guizhou Province. 15 counties were affected by heavy rain, winds with gusts up to 25 meters per second, and hail. In some villages, hailstones reached 3 centimeters in size, and ice rivers formed on the streets. It should be emphasized that since the end of March, this has been at least the 4th hail event in Guizhou Province, a frequency that is rare even on a national scale. The following day, a similar situation occurred in Guangxi Province. Roads in some counties of Chongzuo Prefecture turned white due to accumulated hail. So much hail fell that the streets looked as if they were covered in snow. Power supply in several settlements was disrupted, and homes and vehicles suffered significant damage. Storm El Niño. Storm El Niño struck southern Europe on April 1st, bringing heavy rain, snowfall, and thunderstorms. A rare high-intensity phenomenon, a dense dust cloud from the Sahara, covered the Greek island of Crete, giving the sky red-orange hues. Air quality deteriorated rapidly. Dust concentrations rose several times above normal, reaching one of the most extreme levels in recent years. Residents complained of burning eyes and throat irritation and were forced to wear masks. According to them, such severe storms had never been observed there before. Due to rain mixed with dust, streets, houses, and vehicles were covered with a layer of red mud. Strong winds with gusts of up to 120 kilometers per hour worsened the situation. Transport connections were disrupted, flights were cancelled or rerouted, and ferries remained in ports due to high waves. On other islands, the storm caused infrastructure and power supply disruptions. Torrential rains on the island of Poros led to large-scale flooding. Roads were destroyed, torrents of water washed away vehicles and flooded dozens of homes, while on the islands of Rhodes and Kos, vessels at anchor were damaged. The storm on mainland Greece triggered floods and, consequently, hundreds of emergency calls to rescue services. In the Attica region near Athens, the disaster claimed the life of a man in the area of Nea Makri. Storm El Niño in Italy struck the country the same day, combining winter cold and snowfall with torrential rains. In the mountainous areas of the Abruzzo and Molise regions, an abnormal snowstorm occurred. In the municipality of Capricotta, snowdrifts reached 2.5 meters, a level not observed in April for at least 40 years, while in the Maiella Massif, the snow depth reached 3 meters, a spring record. In a mountain hotel, tourists became trapped under massive snowdrifts. Rescuers, together with the military, organized their evacuation. Heavy rainfall at the foothills of the mountains overflowed rivers and streams, leading to localized flooding in towns. The Osento River in the Abruzzo region burst its banks, flooded railway tracks, and train services had to be suspended. Transport along the Adriatic National Highway was completely interrupted due to the collapse of a bridge over the Trino River. Hundreds of people along the coastline of the Molise region were forced to leave their homes due to the storm. In the municipality of Rappola in the Basilicata region, a section of road collapsed, while a landslide and the destruction of a retaining wall damaged nearby buildings. Over the course of 1 week, several cases of abnormal hail occurred around the world, each showing atypical characteristics: gigantic size, off-season occurrence, and unprecedented volume. Moreover, these events took place almost simultaneously in different parts of the planet. This can no longer be considered coincidence. It is a manifestation of an emerging trend. Against the backdrop of increasingly intense hailstorms, specialists are drawing attention to a factor that was previously rarely mentioned. This is micro and nanoplastic, already ubiquitous in the atmosphere and exerting a direct influence on cloud formation and precipitation. Modern studies show that these particles act as cloud condensation nuclei, accelerating the freezing of water droplets at relatively higher temperatures, from -18 to -24 degrees Celsius instead of the usual -38 degrees Celsius. As a result, ice forms more quickly and at lower altitudes, creating larger crystals. Carried by updrafts, they repeatedly accumulate additional layers, becoming more massive ice particles. This leads to an increase in both the size and density of hail, and consequently, its destructive power. At present, the impact of micro and nanoplastics is barely accounted for in climate models, which makes such phenomena increasingly difficult to predict. What was once perceived as a harmless natural occurrence now causes serious damage. It destroys homes, ruins crops, damages infrastructure, and even takes human lives. The facts speak for themselves. Hail has already become a truly destructive natural disaster.